First rule of thumb for me is catch culture first. Understand the culture you're in before you start trying to push something to them.
Welcome to Growth Through Challenge. I'm Martina Bernhofer, and today I'm sitting with Joel Flores, founder and CEO of Flow Motion Productions, an award-winning media and video production company right here in Fredericton. Joel spent 16 years as an award-winning educator and curriculum developer across the US and Canada, led a radio station through a full organizational turnout, and holds degrees from 3 countries, including a media art degree from Sydney, Australia. He left it all to build something of his own, a company built on one simple belief, that every story deserves to be told well. Joel, welcome to Growth Through Challenge.
Thank you for having me.
So Joel, tell us, you spent 16 years as an award-winning educator, a stable, respected career, and then walked away to build a production company. Most people stay safe. So what made you change that career path?
Well, it's very interesting. I'm going to give you the condensed version because we'll never finish the story. My 3 boys were young at the time, and we had kind of been traveling and living in different places of the world. And this was my wife's home here in New Brunswick. Okay. So we made a decision really kind of on faith and hope to kind of change our lives and come here 2013, 2014, that fall. So when we came here after our time in Sydney, Australia, we were thinking, okay, we're close to some family now. We have some help raising our sons. But at the same time, we were like, how are we going to put our skills to use? Because, you know, right. When you change a country, you have to go through certifications and you have to think about, can I teach here and those things. So media had always been a passion of mine. So I started to follow that path a little bit more. And as you probably yourself know, it can be really hard to break into a new community where relationships are very deep and connections are deep.
Especially in more of a countryside, smaller cities.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And so, my wife first went into retail management where she was an educator. And I fell in with a not-for-profit radio station where it was really tough, but really rewarding. And we moved the station from the south side to the north side where it resides today. And through several years, got that tracking forward. And really the inspiration for the media aspect came from what we were building there. We were creating a very unique radio station that served hands-on in the community, but also provided beyond just the radio service, a media component for these businesses. So really, that's where we started to create the early stages of the outline of how we do media differently. And it was really business to business, building deep relationships and caring about the stories and the budgets some of these companies had to work with, that they didn't deserve less quality because maybe they couldn't afford the same thing. So that sort of set the framework and where I started to build a lot of networks in this community and in the city. And probably about when I had left after 5 years, left it in a really good place, then I started thinking I'd really like to try venturing into this passion of mine on my own and see how that works. So yeah, that's the really summed up version of those years. Gave me a chance to really build a network, get to know people in the community, build some trust, and then start venturing into doing it full time. Well, not quite all the way full time yet, but really, really digging into doing it on my own and building something from the ground up.
Okay. I love that. And you're absolutely right. And especially when you're saying that building someone's unique stories and like really digging deeper into someone's life and telling their story. This is there's a high need everywhere, I think, regardless which country you are.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's very true. I think we live in a lot of social noise. So there's, a lot of times there's a lot of trends that we follow or things that we scroll through on our own. And I don't want to sound like an old man, but it's sort of, it aggravates me sometimes, just the influencer side of things, where I want to slow it down a little bit and get beyond maybe the trend, especially in our local businesses in our community, whether they're for-profit, not-for-profit, private sector, government, it's really important to get to know the organization behind it. You know, the who and the why and the what. So the tagline for Flow Motion Productions always began with who's telling your story, because that actually matters. Like in this sphere living here, I realized that a number of people who work in this field here um, don't always take the time to care about you, the business owner. So how did that start? What's a little bit of your story, kind of like we're talking about now?
Yeah.
And getting to know those folks behind the scenes so that then we can say, all right, we want to truly take what you're doing and show everybody, right?
This is so valuable.
Yeah. So that's kind of the approach. Yeah. And it's really been, I guess, sort of an organic, steady approach that I've taken through kind of everything before I started the company. And that's kind of what I'm known for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a big differentiator as well. Because when I think of marketing companies, they just, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want to tell? Like, what content do you want to put out there? That's it.
Yeah.
And they just care about their quality of videos. And
that's right. And that obviously that should be important. But I'll give you a good example just really quickly. There was, we've been really fortunate where we've really been hitting a high stride with government procurement. And so you're doing a certain level of work for GNB, but then you're keeping in mind not profit, giving back, helping that startup, working with an established local business. And there was an opportunity for a really big contract that we had put a bid in. And I had a little bit of an inside tip, but what's funny is I had kind of seen what other businesses, like marketing groups and video companies, have put in. My first question was, what do you want to say? Like, what is it, your objective? The clarity behind it. Like, what is it that you're trying to outline before I even give you any kind of quote? And that question was like, wow, thank you for asking that. That's actually what came back. And I said, well, if you don't know what your budget is or kind of what you want to do, let's sit down at the table and talk about that. So at the end of the day, I had an ability to see what people had put in, and they were giving these figures and these whole plans without knowing what's the project we're actually doing. So that told me a lot about, they just throw in these bids with a really large number and say, this is what it's going to cost you. And I had to tell them, look, one is just a marketing company. You're not even getting video. So you need to know that.
Yeah.
And the other one is just video and you're not getting the marketing. Yeah. But if you need both, here's a range it might be. But if you need to bring in both of those aspects to help this plan, eventually they ended up going like with a national budget and kind of piggybacked off of that. But so none of us got it. But, you know, they appreciated that. So they're like, we will keep your information because you approached us in a way that was, what exactly do you need firt before I start throwing numbers at you?
What an interesting approach. Really. I love that.
Yeah. So you win some, you lose some, but I feel like not burning a bridge is a positive way to go about things. Yeah.
So when you tell clients, what is the message you want to put out there? What is your experience? Are they surprised? Do they think about, I don't even know the clear message? Do they have to come up with a message first?
Yeah. So I think it's different for every company, of course. Some are very determined and have a really good idea of what they want to do, but might not know how they want to outwork it or what's the best approach. Okay. Some might be very clear on these are modules we need, or this is a specific, or we want to do this kind of business promotion, but we don't know if we should do this on social and our web. Like, how should we use this? So what I do is I typically, we sit down, we have a very casual conversation about, what is your organization? And if I know a lot about it, I usually research it. And if I know about it, then I know about it. And we'll talk about things that have worked. Where would they like to go? Do they have some inspiration in things they've seen that are working, especially if it's common to others, and really hear that through. And then usually we talk through the best methods, the best way to approach or achieve that for their audience, right? And so I help them to try to really develop a clarity of purpose. And then based on that, like, clarity for me is a main theme line through the whole process, from pre-production to the production process to post-production. It really keeps it smooth. And that's usually what slows it down. If they don't know what they want to say, or maybe they do, but they don't know how they want to say it or how they want to get it out there. If they're not sure what they want, that can really buck it up. I try to handhold a bit through, and some need more, some need less. And then I'm working with a fantastic marketer for a really big business now, who actually came to one of our sessions and said, okay, we need to shoot these pieces. Help me develop this messaging for the next generation of this place. And so now it's been this fun process where she knows what she's doing on the marketing side big time. but I've been able to help spark like new, fresh perspective as families and individuals who use and shop in this place.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That it's a community hub, it's a connection place, and a place past 2020 where we've lost that. I'm sure you come from a community, and I do, where connection is important.
Yes.
Like meeting with people every day is so important, you know?
Especially when talking to entrepreneurs.
Yes.
The connection part is especially important for them.
Yes.
To build things, to grow.
Yeah. I mean, we're always networking because it's the nature of what we have to do.
Right.
But I think that there's probably a part for maybe you and I and some other people we mutually know that it's a little more natural. And for some, it can feel like that middle school dance where you're kind of on the wall at the party. I don't know what to do. Right?
That's why I'm here. I can teach them.
Yes, you do. And that's exactly, I love when I came into your home, it was, welcome, we're awesome.
Yes, and I love that. My welcome shield.
I noticed it right away. And I love that because that's, I think that speaks true to your personality, like who you are, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But to be honest, I had troubles here coming to, like, as a newcomer with zero contacts, building something, and then being busy as a mom, of course. But having zero network, and it is so important to have network. So I just started networking. I just started to do workshops about networking because I feel this is making me, this is growing my network too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the interesting thing about New Brunswick is that, and I've talked with some folks at Ignite recently, and we were both kind of outsiders on the inside, right? Not from Fredericton.
Yeah.
And we both observed that, New Brunswickers on the whole are generally pretty humble people. They don't usually want to boast about their businesses or really talk about how, like culturally, like, and that's a Canada thing, like we're the best or we're really great at something. So I come in as like,
sorry, it's not.
What's that?
Is it a Canada thing?
No, it's not really a Canada thing.
It's more a US thing.
Oh yes, and I'm American too, so I can say that.
That's what I'm asking.
But it's definitely more, like, hey, we're the best. And in Canada, I've noticed it's like we're great, but we don't really need to talk about it.
It's the same for Europeans.
It is.
Yeah,
very much.
Quality counts.
Very much. And it is very cultural, and I'm really throwing a paintbrush. Not all Americans are like that, but basically speaking, as an outsider coming in, I feel like, okay, this is my home. Like I'm a citizen here now. I'm in this community, and so for me, I'm like a cheerleader. Like we have to talk about that. We have to tell people about that. Like, why aren't you telling people? I mean, I'm kind of a food evangelist. If you go to a great place, you want to tell people like this is where you got to
encourage them to publish their story.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like this is a great store to go to get this, right? Or go visit this. Anytime people are posting about, I'm thinking about visiting the Maritimes or PEI, go. And right away we like tell people where they need to visit. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So almost like a cheerleader.
Yeah. So Joel, when you came here, and since we're talking about networking right now, how did you expand your network here? What did you do? What were your action steps?
So I had a little bit of a cheater sheet, like I said, because I kind of fell in with the radio station. It was a natural place that I'm a network-oriented person, so I guess that's why I was successful in that role. There were a lot of challenges. Like it was very negatively fiscally in the hole. There were a lot of things that needed to. I mean, we had moved. There was new hires. There was like developing a budget without grants. Like there were so many aspects.
Was that your first employed job here?
Yeah, I had done some other kind of side work, but that was my first like employed stint that was very consistent. And so right away, I started to assess a little bit of the history. There had been some negative relationships built because it is a community-funded station. It's also a business-funded through advertising. And so the first thing I went to do was just repair relationships. And the best way that I did that was one-to-one, not cold calls, but just connecting with people who were in our community, in our list of data we had. So they weren't like random. And I physically went and connected all over the community, went to these businesses and just introduced kind of myself, the heartbeat behind that and the vision where we were going. But the biggest thing was, and you'll appreciate this, I brought a little something with me from that I had learned in education in the States, because I did do like private schooling. So we used to do this, I created a banquet. So we would have a banquet at Kingswood every year in the fall, and it was a vision banquet. We created a centerpiece video that showed history and where we're going that year.
Okay.
And we always had a theme and great interviews in that. And so that would set the tone. I would have some live music. It was a very nice dinner. And we would always sell it out. So we had community members and business leaders and political leaders would come. And that's where we really cast the vision. And we would have a keynote. This is where we're going. This is our objective. And that, I think when you cast a clear vision, people can really get behind that. It's something tangible to step on.
Yes.
And so that's where I started to, in a personal way, form really deep-seated trust. Trust in the organization, again, trust in leadership, and that we were going to be consistent. We were going to take small steps and not try to just swing for the fences. And it's that, there's a great line that I heard from a mentor of mine years ago. It's don't despise small beginnings.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of wisdom in that. Like, just take one step at a time, slow and steady wins the race. Right. Yeah. And so there was, over that 5 years, we brought it from a place of, I'm talking like a negative 100,000+ into like a plus 50, and a staffed place for a not-profit organization, and not leaning on grants and things like that. Right. So it became a very viable resource where advertisers saw value in that niche community. They felt trusted. We were producing what they needed and not dropping any balls. And we were also providing content on air and for them in person that was very valuable. But the relationships were valued. So that's kind of key to my character, I guess. And so I carry that same sort of gravitas with me into my own business. And that's where those deep networks really helped me launch when I was ready to start a business, if that makes sense, right? So,
because that was actually my next question. Yeah. What did that teach you, the turnaround and the whole work there, to bring into your own business later on? So the network is one thing?
So network is one thing. The other thing is it's hard.
Okay.
I'd be lying.
Is hard?
So I'd be lying to you, and we probably both would be if we said that every day is sunshine and rainbows and it's so easy running a business, right? I think how to persevere through those, oh my gosh, moments. I don't know if we can pay this bill, to really trusting the process and seeing then the fruits of that. So staying with it instead of quitting or getting out of there or just looking for something else to do. I think really staying the path. So it taught me a lot about perseverance. It taught me a lot about life-family balance. There was a period that I actually hit burnout in 2017, like clinically. Oh, wow. And since then, I've put a lot of guardrails in to keep from that. But I had a young family at the time too, 3 young boys. Yeah. My wife was working. We were both balancing that. And so the one thing my dad was a really, really hard worker. He worked in factory defense industry. And, the one thing I appreciate about my father and my mother, both workers, was he always spent time with me. And so despite that, not to make the work my life, but to make it something that helps me to live my life. Yeah. Right. So to really invest in my own children, to make sure that my own marriage was invested in and not thrown out the window because of my work. So now as an entrepreneur and as busy as we are, it can be work 24/7, work over the weekends. And so putting those guardrails to say, no, I'm going to stop. This can wait. Yeah. And so it taught me a lot about those things. I think definitely resilience, the perseverance, how to weather the scary moments where you don't know where funding's maybe going to come from, or you're looking at your accounts and saying, okay, especially these days, like groceries or gas, right? A little bit of both, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, those are a lot of those lessons, and I can't undervalue my particular path. That helped me build a network. Not that I lean on all of that, I don't, but it because I had a good name. I always say, you can say whatever you want about me. You can call me anything you want. But the one thing that is my line crosser is any attacks on integrity or character, because that's really important to me. Yeah. And I, as someone servicing someone, I mean, we will follow through. Some of the young guys I'm mentoring who work with me right now, that's one of the biggest things I mentor them on. Even a current project, I had a young man call me up. He's working on a project and he said, so this stuff happens where you have to go back and forth and maybe they're not happy with your work. I said, yes, but you have got to serve that client to the fullest. You've got to do everything you can to give them what they need, and we cannot fail. on that. I said, we can correct mistakes, but you have to honor your end of the commitment. You got to push through it. And so those are really interesting lessons because I want them to learn above all, whether they leave and go do something else, that they've got to finish what they've started, that they have to honor their commitments and go a little bit above and beyond to make sure that they give their client what they need.
Okay. So on the other side, if you go above and beyond and give the client everything they need,
Yep.
Do you think from the financial perspective sometimes as well that giving too much is too much of a time investment that no one pays you?
So yes, it can be. There is a fine line between. So I'm an artist. I'm also a musician. I'm a music and be SoCan artist. So like I live in those worlds where the reason I'm bringing this story forward is because we have a joke where you go to play an event venue and they'll say, we really want you to come. The place is sold out, but we can't really pay you. So we're going to give you exposure. And the joke is, that's great. And exposure is good if you use it well. If you know how to use it as a marketing tool, you get to choose when and where you use the exposure. It's not an undervalue. But at the end of the day, exposure doesn't pay the mortgage, right? It doesn't pay my rent. So that's the balance line. I think where I was to start, I had already established a little bit of a reputation, so people were willing to pay. But I also charged realistic rates for where I was in the game, not the skill, but where I was. And I've steadily increased that to even be, I look at the whole New Brunswick picture, not Toronto. What do film agencies operating at the level we are charge a client? Okay. And then I break it down further. And I offer something I think a lot of businesses don't, which is there's a nonprofit startup pricing rate. You're going to get the same quality as the GMB rate is very different. But even within those three, there's like an established business, startup, GNB government projects, which are big ones. But even in those spheres, I still charge like an upper intermediate because I always want to give them maximum value. At the end of the day, I want to get what we need that's fair. And so that's how I structure pricing and costs. Okay. And so it allows me actually to help the clients that are, maybe doing a $2,000 project or a $1,500 video project, which are very, very small numbers at this point. But the idea is it allows me to give them that little bit of extra, or to go help with Drama Fest. Like we did about a month ago, we did all their visual work just to support them.
Okay.
We did that. They put us in their brochure. And I wanted to do that because I feel like arts in our community either can't qualify for grants or they never get supported the way they should. And this Drama Fest is one of the biggest things in our province. All the schools come to Fredericton and do this week of incredible.
Oh, I've read about this just in the newsletter this week.
It's incredible. And I just happened to have a connection in, and she had asked about some fiscal donating. And I said, look, I'm at a different part of my budget this year. I want to plan for it next year. I said, but what I can do, if you're open to it, is let us capture and cut you some reels, give you material you can have to promote to your funders. And that's exactly what they needed. And that's a good example of that's a good marketing trade-off, right? It's not just exposure, but it really helped them a lot. And at the same time, it put us out in front of the artists, which is what I wanted. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's the exposure goal right there. But when you have, when I speak of pricing, it sounds like this is a great advice right there. It sounds like you have a very clear price packaging, and then you can targetedly speak to the target group. This is your price package. This is your price package, and that allows everyone to be clear on everything they need.
100%. There's no unknowns. I mean, I could probably, I couldn't tell you anybody that we've worked with. There's probably been almost 200 different projects that anybody said to be like, okay, we went way over budget, or I totally underpriced you for this. That's never happened. I try to give them a really realistic, this is what you're going to see, and we either use it or we come under it, right?
Okay. So, a lot of young entrepreneurs have a lot of troubles with finding the right price. Yes. So what helped you finding the right price? Was that just experience?
Some of it. Working in the local advertising media world, I had a good idea of what pricing was, but of course now it's 2026. Honestly, research. One of the best things to use the internet for is to really do a deep dive research. And I found that I'm not a big fan of AI, but one of the great things about it is it can pull my sources together, and I can really look at, I've really done deep dives, okay, in New Brunswick, we're at an upper tier level now as far as video production, in terms of the quality of equipment and things that we bring in and do and our experience, that I really look at, okay, what are media companies charging for established local businesses to do their promotions, or for government projects where it's procurement, or a startup. And then what I do is I really get those breakdowns, and I always like to kind of pick the one in the middle.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then
because they give you a range. AI gives you a range.
Yeah. Even how I pay my team. I pay my team. I know this. I pay my team who come with me, whether contract or I have a part-time hire right now who's been with me a couple of years, and so that's been a big move for me. But basically, I want them to be paid well. Mm-hmm. I don't do these undercut. Even in Toronto, they undercut guys who are gifted, know what they're doing, have gone to school. And they're paying them like $100 something for a job. No way. If they're out, I mean, I'm paying them a good daily rate. I'm covering their fuel, their per diems, those kind of things, right? Yeah. So I want to make sure that they're paid well, because also you want to keep talented people. You want, so you need them to grow your business, right? Yeah. So
because they're the face of your business as well.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So as you're growing, they grow with you, and if they want to move on, that's great. I hope they've had a good experience and have learned something to take with them, right? Yeah. Yeah, but not burn them out so that I make more money and they make none.
No, yeah, right. Yeah. It's a really good advice right there. Also, that you're working with AI and that that this is kind of realistically. So probably because I was just talking to another entrepreneur recently, and they were like also trying to work with AI about that pricing, and that was absolutely not realistic for them. So it's probably just how you feed them. So you're saying you dove deeper. You were like giving them all kinds of background information. So coming back to the people, what really interests me is what is the one or two things that you learn about traveling and studying and working in so many countries? What did you learn about people and culture?
So the first rule of thumb for me is catch culture first. Understand the culture you're in before you start trying to pitch something to them. That's why I spent many years first getting to know my community. Mm-hmm. If I don't know their needs in the work that I'm doing, how can I tell them that I know what they need to say?
Yes.
Because context matters, right?
Yeah.
A context for Fredericton is a different context for a city in Austria or a city in the United States or
different
Australia.
Approach, different way how they do.
Yeah, everything. Different ways they do things. Different messaging is going to hit. Even verbiage, so it's I work on a lot of bilingual projects, and even that can be a challenge because they need an English version. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be working on a project, and then they need the French module version. And the francophone of our area is very different from Quebec, right? Like there's similarities, but there's a difference. There's a different culture here in the Maritimes, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be cognizant, and I wouldn't know that if I hadn't taken time to learn those things. And it's always a learning process.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. So experience, learning, being open.
Yes.
To see and to observe.
Yeah. Like I couldn't presume if we were to work on something now, I would know much more about how to approach and help you best versus when we first connected, because I know more about you and I follow the work that you're doing. That's right. And I follow the work that you're doing, and I love that, and I know more of your story. And so those things just help be more authentic, I think. That's the other thing is time investment. I mean, you spend time with people, you spend time working and helping people at a individual level, corporate level, those kind of things. And it's like, the more you know them, the better you can help them. So I think in this fast world of quick social media, we tend to on to the next thing. But that's where it comes all the way back to the relational, community and relational. We have to be intent to do that slowly. And that's what I call your recurring, or your the clients and the customers who come back to you because there's that trust. You don't have to chase them when they're ready and they want to do something else. They're going to call. Who are you going to call?
Yeah, trust, exactly.
Yeah.
That you care about them.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, I hope that comes across. That's definitely anybody who's put up reviews. That's actually been a very common thread above the technical part over and over. Different organizations has been, Joel and his team really care about us. Mm-hmm. They really value. They listen. I've heard things like they listen to what you need.
They want to understand. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not just a transaction.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you need? Okay, we'll shoot it. Here you go. See you
Right.
later.
Okay, Jill. So tell me,
Yeah.
the one question.
Yeah.
What is one of your biggest challenges in your whole career? It doesn't need to be in New Brunswick, like just in your whole career. One of the biggest challenges nobody warned you about. Something where you almost didn't survive and what tested you most.
Yeah. Well, okay. I would say altogether, I really thought about this a lot, and I think I'm going to probably take it into the current picture of what I'm doing. Is I didn't know what was available to me to start this business. I found out more about certain kinds of funding and things I could do, ironically, by actually shooting pieces for other businesses who had gained access to like start a business through certain funding. Mm-hmm. And then it was too late for me to do it because I was already incorporated, so I couldn't get access to that. Okay. So really, I used everything I had personally to kind of start this business from scratch. And if you know anything about gear, as you've purchased some yourself, you can imagine that it's very expensive. So I think the challenge, if I had known more about funding, if there was more awareness about access to really start business, that was more clear, I think that would have been very, very helpful in the early days of this company, because it did put a lot of stress on me and my family. And there have been a couple of points in time in the first 2 years that I was like, that and imposter syndrome.
Oh, interesting.
Like, I've studied and done a lot of work to do this field, and I still had this imposter syndrome of, should I be doing this?
Okay.
Do I know what I'm doing? Like, why am I even doing this?
That's so common for people who start a new business.
Yeah, totally. And I've been on the other side encouraging someone, no, this is a great business. Yeah. But here I am sitting. There's a couple of us mutual friends that would call each other, would be like, tag, I'm in. I don't know if I can do this anymore. And then sometimes I'll get a call from them. I'm like, what are you talking about? We walk each other back off the ledge. I think that's really important, is having your own personal network of like,
that keeps you going, keeps you motivated.
And obviously,
they believe in you.
Yeah, and to be honest, if I didn't have it's cliche, but if I didn't have my wife and my kids behind me really believing in me, and a couple of key friends in my circle that believed in me early, that belief is important to help you. At the end of the day, you have to be able to deliver on your promise, but like them encouraging you to push along. Yeah. So that was a really big challenge, because you're trying to make now you'll get this. You're trying to make a genuine, authentic noise. You're trying to bring something special that's going to be really beneficial to the community in which you live. But at the same time, you're competing with people who have kind of always been here and always done what they've always do.
And don't even often know what you're talking about.
Yes. Or look at it as, well, have all these experiences, so you think you know better. I mean, there's been a lot of those, not to me directly, but I've heard that. I think more when I was at the station was, I used to get these undertones of, well, he thinks he has all this experience because I've never said that, but because he's from somewhere else. And I've actually had to apologize to somebody, I'm sorry, I moved my family and have lived and experienced some things. Like, I think that's healthy for anybody. Even if you haven't moved anywhere, like, travel a bit, like, get a bird's eye view of the world operates
totally
differently.
It opens your mindset, and you get a feeling for different cultures, and then things don't matter as much anymore. You get just so much more understanding, right? Yeah, people and culture. And just, my dad used to always say, variety is the spice of life. And like, I love that. Like, I love getting to see that. So I think that having that and bringing it in somewhere you can almost be like, doors shut. It's too much, we don't want to hear that. And so, that's a huge challenge. And those take strokes to the ego, that take strokes personally to, I guess what I've learned, and for me, is to not take everything personally. Okay. Not carry all the weight of what I think that people think. Yeah. What is your advice right there for everyone who starts a business, who wants to do something new, who's still hesitant?
Yeah, I'm going to give a plug here. I can't say enough. I know maybe for some people, they've found it not to be worth their time, but I always recommend get connected with your local chamber. If you're here in Fredericton, Morgan and his team have done an amazing job with the Chamber of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce. I just butchered that. But genuinely a community that gives you a place to start connecting. Also research what's available to you. There are several different programs available for you to actually start and even have some funding, some coaching on your business and setting it up from the ground up. There's local support, so do some research on that. Again, I didn't know that at the beginning, so I'm definitely telling you do that, because have a good financial partner or assistant who can really bounce ideas with you. If it's your own financial advisor, if it's a business planner, like take the time to build that, so that you know what you want to build, and they can help you guide that. But then the networking part, and then honestly, just get to know people, hang out where people are, like connect with some of my best pals I've made in the last couple of years have just been, we met at the awards event or we connected and hit it off. And aside from always talking business, we just spend a little time together. Hey, do you want to go down and hit the night market or, grab a drink at so-and-so or whatever? That's been the best relationships because you really get to trust each other and then you really know what we can do for work. So then it becomes that natural. There's never a pressure situation. Yeah. That's the best place to be is I'm not trying to pitch something to you. I'm literally just hanging out. You know what I mean? I've had a lot of opportunities where I could have pitched something to someone and I just kept my mouth shut. Like if they want it, they know where I am. You know what I mean?
Yes. And honestly, especially then, you never know which collaborations or partnerships might occur.
That's exactly,
relationships.
That's exactly right. That can be a big challenge, by the way. That in my field, I don't know about in yours, but for me, it can definitely be like, we've always just used who we always use. And I'm like, yeah, but is that like good? You know what I mean?
So even if you're new in a country, in a town, in a province, it's just a matter of time and go step by step, and then you will build your community and then you will thrive. And together with the community, you have collaborations, you have opportunities coming up.
Yeah.
So that's basically what you're saying. And
yes.
I totally agree to that.
Yes. Like I've actually recommended you to several different companies. I don't know if they've ever called you, but that's a good example of just network relationship. Like for me personally, and I know others have done this also, but for me, when I'm out with somebody and I hear them talking about, our organization needs more connectivity. I've talked about it at SureGrip where I work at. Like I've talked about it. Hey, I've got somebody great who would do a knockout corporate team building. And that's actually probably not very off the table, but I'm just saying I've actually brought that up. And there's been others because I know certain people. Take your time. If you're just trying to build something, get the good advice you need, look for the funding sources, have a plan. Okay. But also like take the time. Don't despise the small beginnings. Like it's worth it, because if your house is shaky, it's going to fall. Right. But right. Take the time to put the stones one by one. Right. So.
Wow. Yes. Very inspiring.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you came and
Thank you for having me.
You were able to talk to me here. And it's so interesting to listening to you.
Thank you.
The creative, multicultural professional who loves to tell your story.
I'm just a Joel. It's been great to be here. Thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure for me. Thank you.
All of my guests built something real through something hard. And that story, it belongs to you now. Take it, use it, grow through it. If this conversation moved you, share it with one person who needs it today. And subscribe, because the next story is already waiting for you.